Hello, everyone, and welcome to Heart and Hand, the Rangers podcast. My name is David Edgar. I will be your host as usual. And joining me today to look back over a pretty standard and joyfully so victory at the Tony Macaroni and a wee bit deeper into the last month is Martyn Ramsey. Good evening, Martyn.
Good evening, David. How are we doing? Excited, I presume, all
I'm good.
packed, ready to go?
Yes, I'm off to Hong Kong tomorrow, folks, to help them celebrate their 30th anniversary of the Hong Kong Rangers Supporters Club. And yes, I'm quite looking forward to visit the gentlemen out there. And of course, the 19th century Victorian in me is quite looking forward to visiting an opium den and such establishments as that. But I believe that that's frowned upon these days.
So I hear. I wouldn't know.
Yeah, rumour has it. Speaking of people being absolutely hanging, you woke up yesterday morning not not the freshest you've ever been, and maybe there were more attractive fixtures to get you out of bed for. But in the end, Rangers gave you a fairly stress-free afternoon, my friend.
Yeah, I was picking someone up, and if I wasn't, it would have been right in the balance whether I was going to drive through to Livy on Sunday. Yeah, it was worth it. It absolutely was worth it. It was, dare I say, fun. I mean, I read a lot on Twitter, Davey, at halftime, slating the performance. This is really casual. We're going to get, it'll bite us in the arse, which sometimes football does. I actually thought Rangers were quite good at points in the first half. It slowed down and getting back into those old habits maybe in the second, but it was it was a good afternoon in the sunshine. Not for me, I was at the other end of the ground, so no sunshine on me, but you know what I mean. It was a
Could you see? I've had that issue at early kickoffs at Livingston before, where
I wasn't in the sun, so I could see perfectly well. But those on the other end with the sun in their faces all day, maybe not. There's maybe quite a lot of Scott Arfield salutes for 90-odd minutes just to see the game or whatever.
I've been that soldier where you're stood there, as you say, saluting for 90 minutes just to catch a glimpse of it. But I think, see on that, I think anything, be it on Twitter, a match thread, anywhere at all, talking to your pals, during the 90 minutes live, I think can be disregarded immediately afterwards.
Totally, yeah.
Because I don't watch it with the same. I don't watch it relaxed and analytically until we're 3 up. So generally speaking,
but I think we know though what bad first halves look like. We have been specialists in bad first halves. Our catalogue of bad first halves could be in a museum at some point of recent years. This was, I thought, very, very much out of the ordinary, even under obviously a very impressive month or so from one international break to the other under a new manager. I still think we've taken our time to get going, as has been the norm. Not so much the last 2 games, and just we'll get into it. And I know it was only one, and I know when it's only one, anything can happen. That's football, but it was a bit of bad luck. It was just fine margins at the absolute end of the moves. The important things were the moves. And a lot more cohesion, a lot more intent, a lot more football being played. And here's to more of that.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's scar tissue, from not recently. I mean, we're talking 2 years, realistically, especially away from home domestically, of seeing the side perform like that and then somehow contrive to find a way to either let the side back into it and have to try and scramble to get the points or fail to get the points. And I think that will take a while to lift. But I think as well that it's just a general thing when it's your team, because I noticed this the other night, just immediately on full time against Sparta, and people were saying, I've made that harder than we needed to be for us. That second half was atrocious. And lads, they're quite a good team, okay? And yeah, we had to see it out, but are we really only 4 weeks removed from the utter horror that was the tail end of the Michael Beale regime? Are we really now a wee bit surprised that in Europe you might have to dig in at points, because European victories they're not easy to get? Yes, it's the Europa League, it's not Champions League, but it's still a good competition. But let's move on to the game now. First of all, the manager made 4 changes. And the encouraging thing to me, Martyn, is he should be able to make 4 changes. He should be able to after a European game. Obviously, if it's Parkhead, it's different. But with all due respect, that Livy, while can be a tricky game, pitch, we know, early kick-off, physical style, all those things, the bottom of the league, they aren't won in, it's now 5 matches they've lost. In fact, not hadn't won, that 5 they've lost. They're not a good side. They're not even a good version of themselves right now. You should be able to turn to guys that are on your bench and say, right, lads, you're in the day. And while obviously, if you go from your standout players to your next rung, there might be a drop. It shouldn't be that huge a drop.
I see your workings, and theoretically that makes sense. That is what should happen.
You'll note I said should, not
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But that's kind of where we are at the minute. We are not fully trusting of our squad for understandable reasons and for demonstrable reasons. So that when we do deviate from what we all kind of consider to be the best kind of first 11 that's fit and available, that there might be some raised eyebrows somewhere else. I don't think the manager was overly happy at playing at 12 o'clock on a Sunday after a European game on a Thursday night. He's going to have to get used to that. 12 o'clock Sunday is Scotland's TV spot. That's just how it is. But yeah, I can understand far from ideal. But yeah, he does need to kind of play about with it. Maybe with the international break coming up, did he? Did he need to go as big? I don't know. But he appears to be a guy, David, who is very heavy into the detail of fitness and conditioning and just levels. And just won't take any chances because it won't escape anyone's notice. We can pick up a lot of needless injuries because maybe we aren't preparing properly, maybe we aren't using players properly, and he seems a wee bit on top of that. So yeah, he made his choices and ultimately we were pretty comfortable.
I think as well, one thing is that when a new manager comes in and he has a clean slate in terms of his opinions about things, I would hope he can look at certain matches, and again, not all of them, but certain matches, and not be caught up in this is a huge game for us. It's like a trip to Old Trafford or Anfield or whatever, and just look at it and say, they're not a great side, lads. Here's how we'll beat them, and go and do it. I think sometimes previous managers, and more than one incidentally, I'm not picking on anyone, have got a little caught up in it at times and built it into something that it
since Walter
shouldn't. Every once in a while, yeah, there you go.
I'm not joking.
No, I used to. I mean, I was a big fan of Gerrard, but I used to get really kind of when we were talking about going to Easter Road, and he'd be, it's got a huge game, and they'll be right, and I'm like, Hibs are 11th, and we've scored 2 in the last 8 games, and I think that someone coming in who maybe doesn't have that can just go, this is actually what we're playing. And you have to be respectful because you can come a cropper very easily. We've seen that. Hearts were not playing well when they came to Ibrox, and we were rotten and therefore struggled to get over the line. But if, here lads, here's how we're going to win this game, and if you go out and execute this to the level I know you're capable of, we will win this match comfortably. And that's what happened yesterday. Rangers weren't superb. Rangers weren't fat. I don't think we had anybody that I thought was an absolute standout, had a 9 out of 10 game. We didn't need to, because we did the right things often enough to make sure we got the victory. That's how you get consistency, Martyn, because you can't be on your top game every single time. It doesn't happen for any side in the world. But it's about, do you do the right things often enough to make sure that routine games become routine?
No, absolutely. Yeah, even the best don't do it, and they don't do it full pelt. They save, or they try and conserve that energy, try and conserve that absolute maximum performance when it is a big club against a big club, when they know they're going to need to be on it absolutely from top to bottom. So yeah, I would agree. I don't think there were any 9s. And it wasn't an excellent performance, but I still think there was a lot of good stuff on show, especially in that first half, in terms of how we're trying to build play up, which has been a bugbear certainly of mine, of yours, of just about every one of us for so long. How predictable we are, how safe we are on the ball. I just felt we were trying stuff. Now, when you have Tom Lawrence available and in the number 10 position, that's a lot easier because he has vision and he has skill, and he's just willing to wait for that particular ball and make it happen. And even perhaps the less confident of players, shall we say, including the first goal scorer, didn't really have to do too much because he just gets it on a plate. I've banged on, I'm sure others have, so often, David, we don't create easy chances, enough easy chances, and that's starting to turn around a wee bit. What it wasn't, and listen, we've been to Livingston plenty of times, despite it being this difficult place to go, terrible pitch, blah, blah, blah. But so often because we've just had better players, and they turn up, someone will do something. That's been the biggest issue with, certainly under Beale and Gio, domestically, was that we win by virtue of the fact that we have better players, and some of them, at least two of them, play okay on a day and will do something. And I didn't feel that was how the game looked, and there are better signs through some of the games we've seen that it's not just relying on that. It's a wee bit more systemic.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think a big indicator of that for me has been Jack and Lundstram in the centre of the park, who are just playing differently. Jack much further up, winning the ball much, and trying to win the ball much further and higher up, and Lundstram getting the ball and getting it forward quickly. Might only be, by the way, 4 or 5 yards to a Tom Lawrence or a Lammers or a Cantwell or a McCausland, but it's not backwards. It's not to a centre half. And it speeds the game up immensely, and that's clearly something the manager's done. And our friend Adam, our tactics guy here in Heart and Hand, was he was undone really when he saw Borna drive to the corner flag a few times and cut the ball back.
But Tom Lawrence forced them to do that.
Yes, because he's very.
He basically said, "Go and get that ball." Whereas before, Borna to have a wee bit more willing, I think, to get to the byline for me. But Borna absolutely gets to position A and just swings it in, and basically says, "Well, I've done my job. I connected well with that ball." I mean, I didn't check to see if there was anyone there, but that's really a striker problem. So it was swung
any
in
game at all, by the way, folks. It's not just Rangers.
But Lawrence was forcing him to do more. I think we've seen more use of the triangles and stuff, especially the second half at Dens Park, etc. And look, we'll see. Lundstrom's an interesting one. So often the whipping boy, and for good reason. Mainly, I think, because trying to do too much, and can't do it, and therefore looks very foolish and tired. The one thing this manager, that first press conference, I think we spoke about it. You imagine working with him every day will be, he'll provide a lot of clarity. There won't be a lot of confusion. There won't be a lot of contradiction in terms of his messaging. That's certainly what we hoped. And I think that's coming through. The players talk about it all the time. And Lundstram, one particular example, is playing like that. He's not trying to do everything. He's not dropping back anywhere near as often as he did. He's not getting in other people's way. He seems to have a role. The manager seems to trust him with a role. He plays a lot. And, well, there you go. We all have players with limitations. We are where we are. But a good manager manages them and gets the best out of them by just giving them very kind of strict parameters within which to work. Now, where the big caveat, we must be aware, and we on the face of it, David, this has been a great few weeks. You could not have asked for much more. Sneaking it in Prague is basically all we've asked from being away from kind of 100%. But just looking at pure results, we should know better than that by now. Gio started brilliantly, but for some COVID-related chicanery, I'm pretty sure he would have started even better. Michael Beale started very well.
Yeah, huge unbeaten run.
It's not
huge winning run.
That on its own isn't enough. Jack and Lundstram, if you remember, that early part of post Parkhead in Gio's time after that horrendous result, looked like world beaters immediately. So we've seen these moments before. We know this squad they're really good at reacting to a new voice. So they've proven that. Pittodrie, Hampden, Parkhead, within 5 weeks will tell us a wee bit more than that. Forgive me if I have my doubts about this particular group, but I have less doubts about who's in charge, and if we can ever get recruitment right at this club, then it could be a very good relationship. But forget the results. I'm just happy at seeing things come off. So yeah, lots to be cheerful.
By law, we need to talk about the referee.
Of course.
That's yes, of course.
With raised voices and
generally speaking,
incandescent apocalyptic language.
If you've got some sort of pitchfork, it would be there. But it was a fairly bizarre afternoon in the VAR booth. I felt more than anything else. First one, the offside goal that Connor Goldson scored. Ball in. Dessers goes for the ball. He's offside as he is far too often, and I don't think that's been harsh on him. He is offside. He does try to play it. It does make the keeper react to him going to try to play the ball. I didn't have any complaints about this one.
Nope. I mean,
no,
he's offside.
Yeah, he's offside. He's trying to play the ball. He's absolutely interfering with play. It's offside. I didn't have a problem with that. The next one was a penalty. Ross McCausland. Now he does the thing that Danilo did very well at Hampden, which is you're not going to score, and you know that. So your job is to get there before the goalkeeper and let him hit you. That's basically it, and you will get a penalty for that. This is a standard thing. It happens in a lot of games. I saw it on Match of the Day over the weekend. It happens a lot. The issue is here that the goalkeeper does, I think, get out of the way in time. There may be some very slight contact at the end, and that's me with my Rangers glasses on, looking at that is enough for VAR to say, right, okay, I'm not going to overturn the on-field decision, but I would certainly have been disappointed had this one been given against us.
Yeah, that's exactly how I would describe it. I'm at the other end of the ground. It looks like he's cleaned out, to be honest. And then the text or the group chats start to think, actually, that's a bit of a simulation going on there. You're absolutely right. That is the common run of things. You're not going to get it, wait and be cleaned out. And when they're not absolutely cleaned out, then there's a decision to be made. But he's already made that decision. I think if he hadn't given a penalty and the VAR said, look, maybe want to have a wee look just in case, I'm not sure he does overturn that. So it's maybe just, look, there's the on-field decision, and there's maybe not enough to dissuade me otherwise. It's you just can't turn on a television or a sporting channel at the moment without this discussion. You're absolutely right, Davey. I thought it was pretty soft. If that had gone against Rangers, if it had gone against Rangers in a big game, I don't think I would have been overly happy. But fans don't seem to understand that there are laws that are binary. Absolutely, as someone in an offside position, the ball over the line, etc., etc. And there are laws in sport and indeed society that are interpretative, and two positions can be valid. And obviously, you want them to go your way all the time, but two options are there. You might disagree, but at least understand that there could be a different interpretation. The thing is, fans see everything as binary. Their opinion is black and white, and can't comprehend that another human being might view it more leniently or more strongly. We really should have kind of grown to get on and live with this facet of football. Apparently not. It went for us that time. As I said, I would have been screaming for it. It was missed anyway, and maybe the other swing of the pendulum went the other way a wee bit later on.
It did. Terrible penalty. People get quite defensive when you say that. I said this yesterday. People are like, "Oh, he's scored loads of other ones."
Yeah,
He has,
time,
and he did later on. But it was a terrible penalty. You should always at least hit the target. I'm sure he knows that himself. Very sporting of him, I thought, given there may be
Corinthian spirit alive and well, Dave.
Absolutely, the captain of Rangers acting, as you say, in a jumpers for goalpost fashion, and sticking his penalty into the car park at the Ralph Lauren outlet. Rangers then do take the lead. Tom Lawrence, we've spoken about him. This is what he can do. You and I were there at Perth, where he did exactly the same. He can time a ball, he can put it into space, and he can put just enough on it absolutely perfectly that a forward doesn't need to check his stride. Or it's not on a plate. There is work to be done. But my goodness, if it's not on a plate, then certainly there's a guy coming for the kitchen with it, holding it for you. It's a lovely.
There's a flow to the move, though. Yeah, there's a flow then that Dessers can. Well, he's not offside for a start because he can't be from that kind of ball.
It was a good run,
and it was. It's connected, if you know what I mean. And it isn't on a plate, but there's momentum to the move. People were screaming when Lawrence got the ball, I think, to set Borna down, I think, or maybe Seam, I can't remember, down the left hand side, and he didn't. And he waited, and he kind of went back and then forward again. There was a few grumbles because he saw something better. He just had to get into position to make it work, and that's a level of quality that I think it's fair to say isn't represented from 1 to 11 in the team. But when he is fit and available, it shows.
Yeah, it does. He is a player that I think we all feel a wee bit done that we haven't managed to see more of in a Rangers shirt, and very much hoping that changes over the next few months. Rangers almost got in. I think, we spoke at the start about the halftime reaction. I think it would have been different had this one counted. Wonderful finish by Ross McCausland on the half volley into the top of the net. Thinks he scored. Now, this one's given on the field. This is not VAR. Steve McLean had ruled this one out for... he suggested a push by Sima on a Livingston defender. To me, this is actually something that you see a lot in refereeing, is they see a guy down and they don't quite know what's happened, so there's an assumption made. Obviously, only he will know that. But we had a different commentator yesterday, an English commentator called Gary Weaver, who does championship games for Sky and is very good. He was up because Crocker they did a Scottish doubleheader, and Crocker was doing the Celtic Aberdeen game, and he was excellent. And he did this remarkable thing of actually telling you what the referee and the VAR were discussing and trying to keep you updated on it. And it was so crazy it just might work, by the way, as a tactic, folks, moving forward. But he said the first thing VAR said to him is, "What have you seen?" Now, that means they've looked at it and they couldn't see anything. When you see it, there's some minimal contact by the Livy defender behind Sima on him, and then some minimal contact by him on the defender. I don't think either is a foul. I don't think either impedes. I don't think it stops Sima enough getting to the ball. I don't think Sima stops the defender getting to the ball. Defender does the thing of, I'm not getting to that, so I'll go down and chance my arm, because it does work quite often. And he goes down. There was a very similar one in Chelsea-Manchester City, that extraordinary game that was on later, which thankfully with Rangers winning, I was in a good enough mood to watch. And Haaland has a tug on Cucurella, and Cucurella sort of grabs him back, and it's Cucurella who got punished for it. I suppose that the argument is there enough to overturn the referee's on-field decision? And then it comes down to a deeper chat about, do you want a referee's on-field decision being overturned unless it is glaring? This is the clear and obvious thing. He clearly felt there was a foul. I wouldn't have minded them having another look at it, to be honest, but then we've got to get out of this thing of, therefore we're going to have to be growing up about refs going to monitors and saying, actually, no, I'm going to stick with my decision on that one. Because at the moment, I think there is a sense, and I think it's coming across, that referees are only going over when they're going to change a decision. I think we should use it maybe the way it's intended to be used, which is just go have another wee look at this. And I think it would be good if referees, it wasn't an automatic thing that if a ref goes to a monitor, it's a snowball in hell chance of being overturned. It's of him sticking with it. It's going to be overturned. I think we need the ref to go over. And if he looks at this and says, "Having watched this passage of play, I still think I'm right," I think that's a wee bit easier for fans to take in.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. I'd like to see more of that, if, of course, the subject matter demands it. But I think it will settle down eventually in that way, and then people's misplaced or displaced rage will go into something else in football, because that's clearly the big issue at the moment. I would have liked to, yeah. You maybe, what have you seen? You maybe want to have another look, because that's what it's for. Because the human eye is not infallible.
Yeah, there's a lot happening now.
That's why we're here, exactly. And it's a busy box and whatever else. And if he does have a look and say, "No, I still think there's enough," then I refer back to my point earlier about interpretation. Wee bit like Danilo on Thursday. There's contact. Now, some people see that as a trip that's been significant enough to knock the boy off balance. The boy off balance, he goes and trips himself further. Others, and I probably would come down on this because I don't think there's maybe enough. It's maybe a wee bit soft, but that's it. Too soft, hard enough. It's just a matter of significance, and you're going to have to accept that sometimes not everyone will agree with you. And it was a shame because it was such a beautiful finish, and he was so unlucky. Not that long before it, actually, when he was kind of cutting in on the right hand side, and he just went over. Bags of confidence and verve and ability there. Hopefully that can be used and honed and developed, because I think there's something in there. So, and I think that plays a part. Not just a 2-0 lead, David. It's like young Rangers player, beautiful finish. You just want that to stand. So yeah, I get it. Some people just, only if it's an absolute glaring thing do they want VAR involved. I don't mind if a goal has been called off for them to just have another wee look. And I still think it'll settle down eventually. One day a referee's going to say, "Yeah, actually, no, I know what I saw, and that's exactly what I did see. I don't think there's enough there to change my mind." On we go.
Yeah, and I think that would be a bit easier to accept. Maybe not in the heat of the moment. I'll reserve the right to say that it's some sort of conspiracy, but I think in time, when my head clears, I'll be able to go, right, okay. But yeah, second half not as good. There was a relaxing in tempo. There's no doubt about that. I think Rangers began to look a wee bit that the effects of Thursday night had caught up a bit. With total control, incidentally, Livingston with one cross right at the start of the second half, that was it. That was some total of their attacking performance. But at 1-0, nerves will kick in, human nature. That taken away, penalty kick, this is what VAR is for. This is a stonewaller. And people can argue about whether or not the offside rule is to their liking, whether it's fair. Again, another game I watched last week was Copenhagen Man United. Both sides got a penalty for what I wouldn't consider to be for handball stuff. If it was up to me, but it's not up to me. The referee was right to award both those penalties. I don't like that rule, but that doesn't mean, therefore, I'm not a Scottish mainstream media football pundit, so therefore I don't go, I don't like the rule, therefore it's not a penalty. Yeah. I don't like the rule, but it's a penalty. This one is, under current rules, in absolute stonewaller. He leaps with his arm in the air, the ball hits his arm, deflects away to safety, it's a penalty kick.
Yep, that's what it's there for, and that's what it provided us with.
Yep.
Again, I'm not a huge fan of the law, and it's very confusing, and it seems to change. I think that's what a lot of people's rage is around VAR, is it highlights the laws that they maybe didn't know existed or understood, and that's what's causing a lot of the kind of disappointment. But
as you say, and also the fact it changes season on season, and that doesn't, an interpretation rather than the actual law can change as well, and guidance. And I don't think that's communicated clearly enough, and I think it happens far too often. Tav, brilliant, steps up, puts it away, game done. Now, there's one thing on our post-match I mentioned, I was a bit disappointed with Todd Cantwell picking up what I thought was another needless booking, because he's had that in his locker. He does do this from time to time. He'll pick up a stupid booking. I owe him an apology on this one, because he highlighted the Livy boy has a kick upwards at his knee, straight kick, which any of you who enjoy combat sports will know it is an incredibly dangerous manoeuvre. A straight kick to your knee can cause serious damage. It's one of the few things, for example, that's banned in MMA. You're not allowed to do it because the chances of causing serious injury when you straight kick somebody with the sole of your foot on their knee, that type of impact. He reacted to that. I feel I owe him an apology on that one. I would have reacted to that. That's a shitty thing for a professional footballer to do to another professional footballer.
Yeah, looked pretty reckless. Again, why was that not maybe brought back into the conversation? I don't watch much Scottish football, David, to be honest, outside of us, but I can't imagine there are many players that get kicked around the pitch more than him. So that, coupled with a natural tendency to react, you just that kind of personality will result in bookings. Clearly, that can become a problem for us if we don't see him because he's accumulated yellow cards or whatever. But he gets a lot of attention in Scottish football, and Scottish football's always given players who play like that, look like that, speak like that, a lot of attention.
Yeah, and that's not going to change. No. Right, well, Martyn, straightforward victory. That was pretty much what I was hoping for after Thursday night. And we've mentioned the manager and how he's done. We've discussed that, and he has done very well. For me, one of the biggest things, Martyn, is although, clearly the side is playing better football and is getting results, and those are the key things for the manager, he has somehow begun to repair the completely broken connection between the squad and the players. Now, that's not to say, you mentioned earlier, that the trust is wholly there yet, because there is too much history there. But it was noticeable on Thursday night when Rangers conceded a goal with 15 minutes to go, rather than just intense frustration and panic from the stands, they roared the side on and got behind the side yesterday. And just anyone you speak to, and just in ourselves, the mood is so much better. A mood of healthy optimism. I really don't think people are getting carried away. I think people are excited to see where it goes, and that's good. That's what you want. That should be the feeling you get when you're going to watch your football team, if you're a well-resourced side compared to your rivals. But I think his manner with us as supporters, with players, he has a consistency about him. And I think that, again, it's very hard to, you don't want to keep referring back to previous guys because they're done, their history, but it's hard to make comparisons without doing so.
Well, you can't.
Consistency, you can't yet. The consistency of message was something that simply wasn't there, and now it is. He's a guy who goes out, and what I like about Clement is he says to us, and he says to the players, and he says to the media, and he says to everyone the same things. And he said, this is what we're trying to do. This is what it should look like. This is what you should begin to see on the park. And then you see it. And that, to me, builds trust.
Amen. Of course it does. It's not moonbeams and bullshit and getting by with the skin of our teeth. I mean, I know that Hearts at home was very much like that, but I could see what Rangers were doing in the second half that day. It wasn't coming off, and Hearts basically brought us into the game with a crazy decision by one of their players to foul so late in the game, and then they lost their heads completely. But I could at least see what Rangers were trying to do, and if it had been a disappointing afternoon, okay, you've got a disappointing Sunday night ahead of you, but again, you can see evidence of a manager impacting what's going on, in terms of trying to play through the middle of teams instead of just this side to side stuff. So yeah, I think there is a lot of trust in the manager early, and even if things don't go well, if there are setbacks, then I think the narrative will be, and I don't think it's unreasonable, well, yeah, we know this squad do this. He needs new players. That's not his fault. And I think fans understand that. So there's a kind of combination of a lot of things. Plus it's Europe, Davey, and Ibrox in Europe is, in recent years, with the obvious aberration of the Champions League last season, a pretty positive place, actually.
Yeah.
Very, very unusual for Rangers fans of our vintage to
exactly.
understand that, but it very much is that. 2-1 at home to take your pick of Scottish jobbers in the same kind of situation. Might be a different feel, I don't know, on a Sunday afternoon or whatever. But yeah, so clarity is such a big deal, David. It must be for players, obviously, but it matters to the support as well. They're not being sold moonshine here, so it's there's something to get behind, but it's still a lot of time, still a lot of new players for me required to kind of fully realise that.
Right then, folks, that will do us for today and do us for this international break. I'll be back here in 2 weeks after we go to Pittodrie. Until then, though, you can still catch up with everything that's happening at Rangers and deeper dives into how the season's going, tactically, all the history stuff that we do as well, over on our Patreon. That's patreon.com/Heart and Hand. Still just $1.99 for a whole month. It's incredible value, as will be our live show on December the 1st at New Edmiston House, when Martyn will be on stage alongside I and some of the other boys in the team. And in the second half of the show, we'll be welcoming Mark Hateley to discuss all things Rangers. There's still some tickets available for this. You can get them if you go to the Edmiston House website. And you can also buy Martyn's book, a wonderful, wonderful Christmas present for yourself more than anything else. And speaking as a very selfish individual, then that's usually my first concern. Martyn, where can they pick up a copy of your brand new book, the second part of your epic 86 to 98 Rangers history?
The Pursuit of History 92 to 98 can be found on the Heart and Hand website, heartandhand.co.uk, and go to shop and look for Pursuit of History and wherever you get your books. But if you want one signed, you get one there. And there is a deal on at the moment, again, talking about Christmas. If you enjoy that, if you enjoyed Revolution, the one before, you can get both for a scandalously good deal with a bespoke personalised message if it is for someone for Christmas. So you can get the two of them. Again, that's in the shop.
Yeah, I was tempted to order anonymously and see how rude you could stick in it. Like, dear David, your mouth is my toilet, love Martyn, kind of thing. But I thought better of it. At the end of the day, Martyn, we're still Presbyterians. So I think that it was important that we retained that. Right. Thank you very much to our producers in London, Mike Lee and Paul Miles. Thank you to Martyn for joining me this evening.
Pleasure, mate. Take care. Have fun.
Oh, I'll do my very best. Yeah, folks, you might want to unfollow me for a couple of weeks. There will be holiday spam on the account. Right, I will speak to you in 2 weeks. Until then, everyone, enjoy this international break. It's a lot more fun than the last one. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.